Dragon Ball Super's recent Chapter 83, Bardock vs. Gas Part 2 is full of action. And I mean, it is absolutely brimming with action. It has got a lot of question marks over it as well at the same time. But overall, I think I enjoyed this chapter. But I want to strip a few things apart. And there is something huge that happens in this chapter that I will have to do an entirely separate video for. So please hold on to your butts because it is coming. Chapter 83, Bardock vs. Gas. Hello everybody, I am ScoobyDrue and it's nice to see you. If you are new to the channel, please remember to hit that subscribe button, and if you enjoy the video, drop us a like and a comment below. It always means a lot. Thank you very much. So without further ado, let's break it down. Chapter 83 opens up with Bardock facing Gas. Monato is holding Granola in his arms, protecting him the best he can. And we see that Gas materializes this mace in his hand. It looks quite menacing. He puts no thought into it. It just appears in his hand. And he's ready to do some serious damage in this fight. At this point, we've got Monato basically saying that that's it, he gives up. I mean, this seems pretty too conclusional this early on, considering that, you know, people aren't down and out for the count. But I guess he just feels that he's reached an impasse in his life and he can't do any more, and feels that Bardock can't do any more. This absolutely shocks Bardock to his core. And he basically says that he's crazy, that there's no way in hell that he's going to walk away from this fight. And rightly so, as Saiyan's instinct, we'll get more into that in a bit, is to fight. It is to stand their ground and fight to the absolute death and enjoy the thrill of battle. Now, here we have something where Gas will almost tease Bardock with the information that they seem to know about Frieza planning to destroy planet Vegeta. Now, we know from newer sources that this was an order directly from Beerus for Frieza to go and destroy planet Vegeta. Beerus was meant to do this due to the Saiyans interfering too much in destroying life and balance in the universe, and Frieza somehow dwindled it, so it was his job to do. So after Bardock pushes and pulls for some kind of answer from Gas on what's going off, he just brushes it off as just a little bit of news that I've heard from Alec. And, you know, he's getting sick of all the cryptic talk that's going on between them and just wants to get stuck into this fight, which moves us straight onto the next panel. He launches a ki blast at Gas and he jumps so high, swings overhead with this mace, and this next panel blows me away. Bardock, without a second doubt, stops this mace with his bare hands, and it is damaging. It severely punishes him. You can see the blood coming straight out of his mouth. Gas is almost laughing at this point by the amount of damage that he's done to him, but this only drives Bardock further. You can see him instantly grab the stem of this mace and throw Gas into the distance without a second doubt, regardless of the damage that it's caused. This gives him a second to break the news to Monato and say, get the hell out of here. This is my fight. Protect the kid, essentially. He doesn't want any harm to come to either of them, but he's mainly focused on the fight, which is something else which is really, really important. Now, we get a nice little tidbit here that the mace was made out of kachin, or kachintite, which is essentially the same material that was used with Gohan's training when he joined Otherworld with Elder Kai and Supreme Kai. Now, what seems to be quite surprising is, although Bardock's not even going all out yet, Gas seems to jump into his inner natured self and releases more of his power. Now, we already knew from the spoilers from earlier on in this week that this is not Gas at his full power. Now, when he transforms, he lets out some kind of what looks like electricity almost, but it seems to lock in Bardock in place and shock him to the point of collapsing to the ground. And whilst this is happening, we have got Monato running back to his house and pulling out the Dragon Balls. Now, he's going over the morals of basically using the Dragon Balls. It's forbidden for their own benefits, the Namekians' own benefit. They are used as a special reward for warrior races to reward them for doing tasks and things like that. This is stated in the manga. Frieza. So you can, you can go and double check that. It is all there is in the information, but he thinks that it should be acceptable to help someone from another planet, i.e. Bardock. Now we go back to the fight immediately, and we can see that Bardock is taking some serious damage now that Gas has evolved further. He's getting bashed around all over the place, and this again is something from the spoilers that we got earlier on in the week. We can see it that Bardock's found out that he can adjust his power level, and this is something that Gas is just brushing off as though it's absolutely nothing, because he's not finished yet. He's not even brimming with full power yet. Bardock is only just feeling like he's getting into this fight, and Gas isn't even giving him chance to breathe. He's straight in there with a flying kick before he can even finish his sentence, and he sends him flying. Meanwhile, whilst this is happening, Monaito summons Torombo. With Torombo summoned, Monaito is instantly onto the first idea that comes to mind, and that is to return Bardock to planet Vegeta. Now, we've seen this done a few times. We've seen this done when Goku was asked to come back after defeating Frieza, back after the Namekian saga and the Frieza arc, to basically come back home. Now, he refused and was able to tell Shenron, no, he didn't want to come back. We also have seen this in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, where they used Shenron to send Broly back to where he's from. However, there wasn't a question asked to Broly during this period, it just happened, which kind of throws a spanner into the works if you ask me on continuity. There is two instances here where people have been able to deny a dragon, and one instance where one person wasn't even given the choice. As the fight continues, Bardock hears a voice. Obviously this is Torombo and we know this, but Bardock doesn't have a clue about what's happening, and it completely throws him off. Gas thinks that he's losing his mind talking to some invisible man at this point, and thinks that something else is going off. So he kind of seems to stand back a little while to pay attention to what's happening in case something else unexpected is going to happen. Gas seems to be pretty well taught in the way of fighting. He's not just jumping in there when he sees something strange going on. At this point, Gas notices Torombo, but he's no idea what it is. Dragons and Dragon Balls is something that wasn't widely known outside of Earth and Namek. These are two places that are in a huge universe when more life existed, or at least I can assume more life existed, and we've been introduced to a kind of a fourth dragon if you include Super Shenron, but Torombo has got nowhere near as much power as any of the other dragons. Shocked by the decision that Bardock has made, he continues to fight and put everything in. Now, this is the point where we start to see Gas's true form sneaking through. As Bardock delivers a blow to Gas, you can see his arm swells up. It kind of reminds me of Zamasu when he was half corrupted, and you can see his arms bulk up much bigger than what he was in his previous state. So this time he can hear Monato's voice and not Torombo's voice. So Bardock's really confused, and he's basically saying, why the hell am I hearing voices? And he's trying to explain to him that he's trying to use this decision to save his life. Now, one thing that really scratches my head is he mentions the kindness in his heart. I don't think it's a sign of kindness. The only thing that we've had relating to Bardock's decisions is the fact that he saw the fact that Granola was a young child, and it reflected upon his own life when he knew that he had Kakarot back home. However, I don't think he was named Kakarot by this point. It was something that was only said in Dragon Ball Minus, so he must be very freshly born by this point. This is 40 years back in the past. Monato is determined to tell Bardock that he needs to use this time to basically decide what to do, because he needs to live. He has to see this fight through. He knows he is the only option and hope that they have of surviving, but Bardock is simply determined and focused on nothing else but the fight. Which reminds me about the whole Ultra Instinct state. Ultra Instinct is a form that is based on solely nothing but focusing on the fight and forgoing anything else. This is something that I think is going to play into a huge effect when it comes down to Goku truly achieving and understanding Ultra Instinct in his own form, not the same form that the gods have. By this point, Monato knows that he can't argue with Bardock. So he asks, is there another wish that he can make? Now, this is something that a lot of people are probably just going to brush off as a small piece of information and tidbit, but I assure you, I am about to go into huge detail in another video regarding this wish. This cemented and changed the entire history of Dragon Ball. Trust me on this. So still being unaware of the dragon and Dragon Balls, he mentions, are you making a wish on a shooting star or something? Which is basically him taking he's taking the mick out of Monato and basically saying like, yeah, whatever, I'm not believing in any of this stuff. I think you're just talking nonsense. But he says, but sure, I'd wish that my sons end up thriving. Now, this is something that has so many different meanings, but I think I've cracked down on what it truly means. By Bardock making this wish, he cemented the future of Goku and Raditz to age without any interference or problems and learn everything that they possibly can that they want from life up until a certain point. That point being the same time when they both die at the exact same moment. That is a talking point that the fandom need to really pick up on. That everything has been cemented previously because of this small decision. And I'm talking everything from Vegeta's life being saved, Goku surviving until he got to a certain age, but everything happened the exact way that both of those warriors wanted until they reached a similar age. The fight continues regardless, and we can see that he is kind of ignoring what's going off, but the noise and the destruction and noise in the background is too much to ignore by now, and they're all paying attention. They thought that the fight would be over by now, so they have no idea what's happening. The Dragon Balls disappearing causes Elect to have his questions about what the hell's going off. They know Frieza is coming in, or at least his ship is. He may have sent someone different. We don't know if that's for certain or not. I dare say at the end of this chapter, we will go back to the current timeline and we will be done and dusted with everything from this past. Monato speaks about how Bardock has the right idea and using the wish to create hope for the future. Selfish wishes can only bring about doom, and he was about to make a grave mistake. Now, we don't know for certain if that wish went through because we never heard the words said specifically back to Torombo. We can only go as far as assuming that Bardock's words were heard, and that truly did change the fate of Goku and Raditz. But in the same time, this small panel at the bottom says, I meant to protect what hope we've got left with all I've got. There's still some argument that if that wish wasn't actually made for Bardock, that Monato made a wish to actually protect Granola instead. We go back to the fight and we can see even more details coming out with Gas growing stronger. His arms are slowly starting to bulk up as this fight continues. We can see that Bardock is at a point where he's really starting to struggle now, and Gas is getting really mad and angry. He starts by grabbing Bardock's tail and sending him into the ground. He repeatedly swings him around by the tail, smashing him around until the point where he places his foot on his back and rips his tail clean out of him. This will obviously stop him from changing into the Uzaru form, and he knows that. He knows that's essentially his trump card. And this is the point where he materializes a long spear and goes to throw it at Bardock to end this. Just as he launches it, Monato jumps in the way of the spear and takes it clean to the shoulder. Now, don't forget, Namekians have the ability to regenerate, so this is only a temporary form of damage to him. As much as it's gotta hurt, you've gotta give it to him. He's shown no resolve whatsoever throughout this entire fight and decides to step in and take one for the team in order to protect Bardock. At this point, I dare say that Bardock feels that he owes him one, because if that spear had touched Bardock, it would have been endgame. By now, Gas is absolutely livid and truly unleashes his full potential. It's almost like watching Broly go full power Super Saiyan. Both of them are absolutely gobsmacked by the amount of power that he's gained. He launches a huge left hook and manages to hit Monato out of the way, and Bardock seems to stagger backwards away from it. Gas takes no time in trying to grab Bardock and take the life from him by strangling him to death. Gas is still provoking Bardock and telling him that as he dies, know that he failed to protect anyone. This is something that will truly resonate with Bardock because he knows he's not done for yet. He's not dead yet. He will do everything and anything he can to win this fight, which is also something that reminds me of Vegeta's current situation. His new Ultra Ego form has got so much going off regarding nothing but focusing on the fight and giving everything they have got to cause nothing but destruction and risking your life towards the end. It's almost as if Bardock is 50% Goku's future and 50% Vegeta's future. By releasing a huge Ki Blast, he's able to escape and drop down and start fighting once again with nothing but determination to end this fight. Now I gotta say, after Bardock beats back Gas and gives himself a little bit of breathing space, this small panel here where the air all kind of settles around him looks awesome. You know that something serious is coming. Gas is asking questions about why Bardock's so determined to continue this fight, and he's just denying everything that he says because he's only got one thing in mind right now. So as Bardock focuses on this fight and hones all of his strength and abilities ready for the next step, he has this amazing panel where energy begins to flow through him and you can see him almost like it's similar to a full Super Saiyan, but it's definitely not a transformation. This is nothing but Bardock applying his focus and attention and resolve into this fight. As Gas tries to rush him, Bardock catches his fist. He literally stops him mid-air and Gas is shocked. And finally Bardock responds with, "Isn't it obvious by now? In a life and death battle, what sort of idiot would think about anything else besides victory?" Now, this is really something that should resonate with the current timeline. If this is on that recording, which we're supposed to believe that all this is on the recording and this is a flashback and they're hearing it right now, present day, what's happened, this should resonate with both Goku and Vegeta. I think if they've any way of winning this fight, it's going to take both of them to beat Gas, and both of them need to focus on nothing but victory. That goes for Ultra Ego and that also goes for Ultra Instinct. With this, we see the best panel of this entire chapter, and that is Bardock delivering one huge blow to Gas, and you can see the damage it causes by his facial reactions. He's making nothing but noise and sound, and Bardock says, "I fight when there's an enemy I want to beat down. Nothing more to it." He's so focused on this fight and nothing else. It rings so true with Ultra Instinct. It's unbelievable. He launches out this huge Ki Blast and all we can see is a massive explosion, and Gas cannot believe what he's seeing. He does not believe it one bit. Bardock stands there and says, "You're ignorant and that's my fault?" Nah, that is so good. That panel is so good. He continues with, "See, we Saiyans have a way of growing and evolving every time we push past our limits. It's not so much a Zenkai boost, because he's not near death. He had so much more still to give before a Zenkai boost. But this is Bardock pushed at his limits, doing everything and anything that he can to win this fight, and nothing but being focused on that. Gas seems to feel that he represents a limit, and that no Saiyan can surpass him. Bardock proves him wrong very, very quickly. He dashes towards him, punches him in the face, kicks him in the face, you name it, he does it, and he sends him flying through the air. Meanwhile, however, we have Alec witness this. Alec doesn't like the fact that he has unleashed his inner nature, which means that there's obviously something not right about using his inner nature even back then. Gas is more in disbelief than anything else right now, and he just cannot stand what is happening. Bardock puts everything into this huge Ki Blast, and he sends him flying. He's down for the count, and as I said in the last review of the spoilers, GG's 1-0 Bardock. He takes the victory on this one. Completely out of breath and exhausted, Bardock collapses to the floor. Alec doesn't even have any worries or any panic for Gas. He literally just starts talking about how he didn't think he'd lose control. He didn't lose control. He was beaten. And that's a huge difference. Like, we for some reason, Alec seems to think that Gas lost control, but he didn't. He was very, very focused on what was happening. The only part towards it was where he couldn't control his emotions on why he wasn't winning. He couldn't get his head around how Bardock was stronger. And the instant thing that Alec says is, "A real shame. We'll have to double down on training." There is no worry for his brother. There is nothing. It's literally, "You're going to have to train more." This man in almost every panel that he has some involvement with another character is seriously cold, and I wouldn't be surprised if Alec has plans to just get rid of Gas in future so that he can be the one that's in charge and the strongest. He's very surprised that Bardock is still alive and breathing after all of this lot. And he says in another panel here, when it comes to business, there's the hand you show and the hand you don't. Again, this is something that I think's foreshadowing the fact that Alec has more going off underneath the surface than we're being let on to believe. We have another little tidbit here which is hinting towards the demise of the Saiyans. Bardock has no idea what's happening, and to be fair, why would you think otherwise? But it's kind of strange that we've had two things planted now in one chapter regarding the end of the Saiyan race. I guess it's supposed to add towards more cemented theories that Bardock's hunch had a little bit more gravity behind it rather than just being a random afterthought. And this is something that we've seen time and time again through Dragon Ball Super, and I think that it's kind of run its course now. We see Alec pull out a laser gun and clean shoot Bardock through the arm. Wasn't aiming for the arm, but he still shot him. We've seen Goku shot with a laser. We've seen Granola shot in the back with the exact same gun. Like, seriously, is Alec gonna take out Frieza by popping him in the head? Like, is he gonna go all gangster and just pop a cap in his head? Like, is that how this works now with Dragon Ball? Or is this some kind of super ray gun of death that can just destroy everything? I don't know. It kind of seems a bit ridiculous. Bardock falls off the edge of a cliff, and Alec knows that he missed. I'm assuming he was either aiming for the head or the heart, but either way, he missed. So I think he needs to do some training himself on his target practice. You know, shoot a few cans in the backyard or something. I have no idea. Frieza almost, in a sense, saves the day because of him landing, or his ship landing. Again, they don't state that it's Frieza himself. They just know that it's his ship. Is landing on planet Cereal. Alec has to bail. He has to go. He fires random shots hoping for the best, and he's no idea what he's hitting. He seems to think that Bardock will just drop down dead like a dog, with no way of being able to survive this fight. He takes off with Gas's lifeless body with no care for him at all. You can see how he's holding him. He's not cradling him when he could. He's literally holding him by one hand and flying through the air with him dragging behind him. This man has shown nothing but signs of disregard for everybody else so much, and I really believe that there is more to this character to come out than we're being told to believe. Not only do we already know that we've seen other parts of the Heat family announce that they too have got inner instincts, that really points out that Alec has the same ability as well. And what's not to say that he can make a wish, or has already made a wish, for these two to become the strongest, and is yet to unleash his inner nature. Thankfully, Minato pulls himself out of the rubble. You can only assume that his wounds have healed because of his regeneration by now, and he runs over to save Bardock. The final panel shows that Bardock has won this battle, and Bardock's scouter just seems to fizzle out as though it can't be used anymore, which would signal the end of the flashback and the recording, bringing us back to the present day. I would be very, very surprised if we had more of Bardock and the past that had happened after this point. I mean, I would like to have Bardock back. Some people believe he's run his course and his story and arc is done and dusted, but I would like to hear more from Bardock in the future. I don't know how they could do that. It would be very interesting to see if they did, but until then, we have Goku and Vegeta in the present timeline. I'm looking forward to seeing what this all entails and how it really moves the story forward. We can't have many chapters of this left unless there is something else to progress this fight and elevate it to the next level. We've also got Frieza coming up. Frieza has to come back around. It needs to come full circle, but who knows what's going to happen. I've got a few theories on things that have happened in this manga chapter. I will be breaking them down in a future video. I hope you've enjoyed this week's edition of the Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter 83 review. Until then, everybody, stay safe. Remember to hit that subscribe, like, and drop us a comment if you've enjoyed. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.